Today we're going to diagnose a no crank, no start condition for a Ram 3500 high output Cummins diesel. Let me show you what's going on. One thing you may notice with these very modern electronic style vehicles is, well, it could start throwing you a bunch of different codes and weird lights. This also was telling me that 4x4 was not available and that it wasn't even in park, which we know that it is. So sometimes your computer will get a little funky if it just doesn't have the exact right power and voltage. As soon as it drops, the computer feels like it's not quite getting the consistent and the right voltage that it needs, and it will start getting a little goofy and scrambled and start reading data incorrectly. So that kind of points to us that we're having a main power issue. More often than not, it's something stupidly simple, such as your battery is low, or battery could be even flat or dead. And especially with diesels, you have two batteries. You have your main one, and then your second battery over here, and we're going to be testing both of them. That way we can rule it out to make sure that it's not just a simple dead battery. And we're going to use both of these tools so I can demonstrate them, but you only need one or the other, really. Let me show you what to do. Now, both of these are available either from Harbor Freight, or you can get them from Amazon or any other auto parts supplier. This one here is just a simple kind of battery tester that also gives you the option to test your alternator and see the strength of the output overall. And it just has some basic thresholds there to tell you if it's good, not good, or strong. This, of course, is your more standard multimeter, and this will actually tell you the exact voltage. We're going to demonstrate both of these. Okay, and just like your multimeter, you're going to hook it up to your power source. And of course, you won't be able to test the alternator power because, of course, it's not running. We'll be able to test that once we get it cranked and started. Make sure that our alternator is actually putting off enough power. And it looks like that is below 5 volts, so that is totally drained off. So there might be a parasitic loss here somewhere. Let's go check the other battery as well. And you can see what the threshold here is essentially telling you that it's either above 12.5, somewhere around 12, or below 5 volts. That's really all it tells you. And same with the alternator here is whether it's 14 or less. So it's not the most accurate, but it does at least give you an idea. And it's very simple. A little magnet back here that sticks. And it's pretty straightforward and easy to interpret and use. Yeah. So we know that both are below 5 volts, or at least somewhere around 5 volts. Well below the needed cranking, not just voltage, but amperage as well too. Let's get the multimeter on here and test it a little bit more thoroughly and see exactly what they're doing. I like that there's a parasitic loss that had drained both batteries simultaneously. And the multimeter is honestly just as simple and gives you a lot more information. So we're going to set it to 20 dCV. So this is your direct current voltage. This is not alternating current. It would be for a house, which would be over here on this side. We're doing with direct current, so it's going to be on this side here. And of course, you can test your amperage as well too, so we can also look at that as well. Well, it actually says we have 12.7 volts. Let's go recheck the driver's side and see what that's doing. Yeah, so it's around 12. So it looks like likely the battery is just worn down just due to being left outside and sitting for prolonged periods of time, especially in this alternating temperatures. With wild temperature swings like that often happens. Unless, of course, a mouse or rat has crawled underneath there and chewed some of the wires. But it seems like they're pretty equal, so that's good. That means they're both balanced and both connected. It's not like a disrupted circuit. A lot of times it's easy to check the most stupidly easy and simple thing first before you move on to tearing apart your electronic system. But here's a trick with a diesel. A lot of times jumping it is not that simple because diesels often require a higher cold crank amperage than a standard gasoline truck does. Gasoline powered vehicle or even a truck is not going to give you the enough amperage that you're going to need to be able to spin, especially a very high compression engine such as this. That's the same also with those jump packs that you buy either from Costco or from online to make sure you get a diesel specific one that can put out the kind of cold cranking amperage for long enough to be able to actually spin that sucker over. That's where the trick comes into play here. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to hook this up to a battery tender / charger and let it charge up for a few hours, and then we can go ahead and take the truck out and run it. That way we can also test our alternator and let it get, well, basically charged up, and then it should be good to go. At least that helps us isolate out anything more serious, because often it's something just that stupidly simple as that battery. Alright, so special note when you're hooking up your battery tender, you have a couple different options. You have these alligator clips, and of course you have the loops that you can actually screw on. We're just going to go with the clips. That'll do good enough. We're not charging it from stone dead cold, so it should do just fine. You want to hook this up to your battery before you plug it into wall power. That's the beauty of this thing, is it has a inverter here, and it can take your wall power and convert it to exactly what it needs for the battery. Plus it tells you your battery health here as well, and it lets you set up for 12 and 6 volts for automobile and for power equipment. And just like when you're jump starting a vehicle, go negative first and then positive. This way, if you have any sort of arcing, it has somewhere to jump to, especially with these heavily electronic vehicles here. You don't want it jumping everywhere. And of course, the closer you can actually go to your actual battery stud, the better it is. because you do have these jump points, which are perfectly acceptable as well. But of course, you have a bunch of fuses and electronics and disconnectors and stuff there, so you don't want to shock that up. So better to go directly to your battery as much as possible. And leave your hood open to vent, because oftentimes when you're charging, especially with these lead acid batteries, you can start making hydrogen gas. Make sure there's no flame, no spark, no anything around, and make sure it vents out. That's the key thing right there. So don't do it in a confined space if you can avoid it. And go ahead and plug our sucker in. So you want to make sure that you are on lead acid, not lithium, 12 volt, and it shows that you're charging. Boom. So we'll come back in a couple hours and test it out. And of course, another special note is you don't want to crank it when it's still attached to your wall power. So that's why you need to let it charge up first, disconnect it, safety it, and then crank it over. You don't want to try pulling when it's attached to the wall power like that. It's probably won't harm anything, but better be safe than sorry. And of course, there's another highlighted reason why it's good to use two different verification methods for your battery power. Because although this tells us we have 12 volts, which should be arguably enough, this also measures a combination of factors. So it's less specific and perhaps a little less pinpoint accurate in terms of voltage, but because it takes a variety of different factors in combination, it can tell you if your battery is actually in totally poor health despite having good voltage. Because it also measures your amps, measures the flow, measures the current, resistance, a bunch of different things all in one. Whereas this, you have to test each number individually and then calculate it out. So for the average homeowner, something like this is perfectly good. And if you want a little more specifics, having this is good for a variety of different other things as well, not just automotive. And of course, another quick note is whenever you're charging up a dual battery system, charge up your primary battery first. Usually your secondary battery is on a battery cutoff, so even though it will get charged up, it won't deliver the rest of the power all the way through the system. Your vehicle is going to pull electronically from this first, your primary. How you can tell is your primary is going to be the most easy to access, and you're going to see these little sort of cutoff switches and other things. And of course, you can also tell because it will have the jump posts as well to it. Your other one, like you saw, has just a simple cover on it because they don't want you jumping from the auxiliary battery. They want you jumping from the primary battery. Well, let's come back in a couple hours and see what you do. Okay, as you can see, we've left this here for about 4 hours and it is still charging. I mean, of course, this is a pretty good sized battery, and it's not uncommon for these trickle chargers to take like 12 plus hours to fully charge a battery, even over a day to actually go all the way from almost dead. Now, this is not totally dead, but clearly it is a big, heavy battery, and even though it was giving us the voltage, might not be giving us the total amperage. So in order to give it enough cold cranking amps, probably gonna take a while. But let's see now, after about 4 hours, let's go and put our battery tester back on there and see if we made any sort of improvement. And let's go ahead and try cranking it over and see if we got enough juice to at least pop it over, take it for a little spin, make sure she's running okay, make sure there's no other electrical problems that would imply like a mouse or something got in there and chewed, or the damn squirrels. If you want to watch this War with the Squirrels video, link down below. And let's see what happens. So we came up to fair. So it definitely made an improvement. Still not all the way up to good. It's going to take probably several more hours for that to come up all the way. Let's test our voltage here real quick. See what kind of voltage we're running here. 13.4 versus 11.97 earlier. So that is already quite a massive improvement. That alone is probably enough to really crank it over because it needs some juice, especially for a high compression engine such as the diesel, and especially a high output version, which is even higher compression than that. And that is why these batteries often cannot be jumped with just a normal gasoline vehicle or with those normal little jump packs that you can buy from like Amazon and stuff. Those work great for a gasoline vehicle with lower compression, high compression, especially diesels. They just lack that punch. Maybe for a small little car diesel like a 1.8 liter Volkswagen, but not something like this. Definitely not. So you need to get diesel specific and a high cranking amperage one that has got plenty of juice behind it. Not just to give the amperage, but to give it for long enough, because diesel takes a couple rotations to get going because it fires off of compression mostly and just has the glow plugs to give it that little kick over, and that's it. It's not like it's a spark that actually ignites and forces the explosion to go. It's just on compression and it takes some time to heat up. So that's why you need the size and the amperage to be able to pop it over. Okay, I just want to highlight here real quick the secondary battery. With the battery disconnect engaged, it should not have changed anything with this battery. Actually, look at that. It brought this battery up as well too. So I guess our battery disconnect isn't really disconnecting, at least not automatically at least. That could also explain why it's been taking so much longer, because now we're filling up two batteries at once. Just perfectly fine. Normally with a dual battery system, you'll have some kind of disconnect, and usually with a factory system, it would be an automatic disconnect. Seems like they're both just connected at all times. Go figure, Stellantis, I guess. But that's good. That means with both of them combined, it should be more than enough at this point to kick it over. But let's see, and then that way we can at least rule out anything more severe that's going on in the engine or the electrical system. Let's check our voltage here real quick. 12.87. Anyway, let's try to crank it over now finally and see what happens. big bit coming in. Woo! Cheeky. Let's go ahead and get our brake on, or put it into run position here. Look at that, like a champ. Excellent, no computer problems whatsoever there. Looks like everything is reading correct. Fantastic. Well, that's good. Simple like a dimple, like a pimple. Wasn't anything more severe than just a run-down battery. And probably just because it wasn't run for a couple of months now, just left outside to fluctuating air temperature, which of course is going to drain your battery. Not just cold, but heat can also do that as well too, and especially if it's changing a lot like it does up here in the North Woods. So that was the case. Thankfully, mice, squirrels, and other rodents didn't get in there and do any sort of electrical damage. It looks like our computer is reading well. We're not getting any weird codes. It's not saying anything weird about the 4x4 system. No solenoids are kicking on weird. So we're back to full power. Excellent. Another good way to kind of get your battery back up to snuff. If you're able to, go ahead and drive, but don't stop it right away. Go ahead and drive around, especially for a diesel. You want to be underway and not let it idle too much, and give it some speed as well too, to help clear everything out. And that way you can charge it with the inbuilt factory charging system. That's another way of doing it. And then of course, when you come back, you can put it back onto the trickle charger just to keep her topped up and so you're ready to use it next time. Our mistake that we didn't do that, but you would think it shouldn't die out. The rest of our vehicles don't. So there might be a little parasitic loss here somewhere, maybe with the security system. That's often the primary culprit, will be your security system, because it has to stay on at all times. Well, maybe that's what's happening. But otherwise, great, we got it. You can too. Wango bango, ain't no tango. Anyway, if you like this, follow for more truck stuff. Link down below. We can cover not only the basic stuff for the beginner, but intermediate and also the more complicated things as well too, including fabrication and more complicated electrical diagnoses. I cover it all there so you can as well too, and save yourself a ton of money. Imagine you had to tow this to the Stellantis dealership or a shop for a dead battery. How much will they charge you for that? Or for that matter, even just buying a battery. And if you're interested in any of the parts and tools used in this episode or any of my episodes, link down below. Yes, I am an Amazon affiliate, and using my links does not affect your pricing or costs at all, but I could make potentially a small commission of like 3% if you do use those links, and it does help the channel out nonetheless. And I'm hoping to bring you guys some discount codes as well too from some of our channel sponsors, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, it's free, it's optional, and if you're interested in some of the tools and pieces and parts that we use here, you're more than welcome to check them out and use those codes. If not, you could go directly to the website. It's perfectly fine, but it does help out the channel, and I do appreciate it nonetheless. And don't forget to stay tuned for the next episode, because we're gonna take care of that infamous heater grid bolt that ruins cylinder number 6 when it cracks off randomly and drops to your engine. We're going to be replacing it instead with the Banks power horn, get a little extra juice out of it, and also make it slightly more reliable. So stay tuned for the next episode of Truck Stuff. I'll truck you later.